Hello and welcome to Marvel Vision, a Marvel Studios TV show podcast brought to you by Cinema Sangha. My name is Devin Fracci. I am one of the hosts of the program. Joining me as he traditionally does.
My name is Derek Fracci, and I was just in the middle of torturing William Shakespeare by explaining the plot of the Entourage movie. How are you, Devin?
What is that from?
It's from The Good Place. I've been rewatching The Good Place. I have bad news for you. Tahani belongs in the bad place because
I saw you tweeting about this. Yeah.
Yep, she admits to going to one of P. Diddy's white parties. That's pretty bad. So, sorry, Tahani.
I think she deserves to go to hell anyway.
I mean, they all did. That was the whole point of the show. But more so than the others at this point with that.
Well, the actress who plays her has a real tendency to lie and has told numerous versions and of a story about her being chased by bees. And there's one version where bees chased her into the street and she got hit by a car. There was another version where bees chased her and she had an allergic reaction. And they're all at different times. It isn't like she's changing the details of an old story. She's like, last week, bees chased me. I got hit by a car.
Maybe she just got something with bees.
I mean, that's very possible. There's other things that people had cataloged her lying about, aggressively lying about, which I find very fascinating. But now whenever I see her, all I think about is her being chased by bees. I feel like if I ever had to interview her, I'd be like, can we make sure there's no bees in this room? I need to make sure this interview goes correctly because we know that the bees hate you.
Do you wear a honey-based perfume or something?
Oh my God.
She's so sweet.
How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm tired of the cold. I'm really tired of it.
Bro, you live in Michigan.
I know, but what
are you doing there? I'm
living in a place that has low cost of living is what I'm doing. But I can't. The problem is we had a bunch of snow last week.
Mm-hmm.
And now on the sidewalks, that snow has become impacted snow with a sheet of ice.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't walk anywhere. And I like going for walks and I can't. And it's driving me crazy.
I'm thinking about buying a walking ped.
I was thinking about it. I have a stationary bike that I use, but I despise it.
Yeah, it's not the same thing as walking. Yeah, it's just a different experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, maybe if I got a walking pad, I would enjoy myself more and maybe use it more often. But I don't know. I'm getting fatter and fatter. Nothing's going well. I really am.
Well, yeah, it's Michigan in February. You're like a bear. You have to put on the weight to stay alive.
Also, my contact just got messed up in my eye.
Oh no, it's disgusting to watch you play with your eye like that. Oh no,
something's going wrong.
Somebody's got pink eye.
No, my contact shifted and now I can't see.
Do you need to go take care of this in the bathroom?
No, I can take care of it here.
With a little bit of contact lens solution or something like that?
No.
To help. Oh, for those listening, Derek is currently blinking a million times a second and playing with his, he just stuck his fingers in his eyes. Now he's playing with his eyelid and it's not working. And he's moving his whole face around, moving his eyelid.
I'm trying to get my contact.
You're tugging so hard that your whole face is moving. And Derek is all fucked up with his contact. It didn't come out. I thought it came out. Is it rolled back into the back of your eye?
Yeah.
That was always my big fear. That happened to me a couple times. You got to put contact. You got to put some Visine or something in there to lube it up so it can move around. He's turning off his camera to do something with his eye that he doesn't want the audience at home watching on video to see. And I don't know what it is. Oh, this is such an exciting episode.
Still see.
This is such an exciting episode of Marvel Vision. Marvel Derek has no vision. So
there we go. Okay.
He got it. He got it. He got it out, I think, is the deal.
I got it out, and I'm going to put it back in.
He's going to put it back in. I don't know why he had to turn off the camera to do this. This is the strangest part of it. This is live. I should be like a sports guy. I can fill in the space. I can give a play-by-play. Stop rubbing your eye. You're going to make it
I just
dislodge again.
Now my eye's a little watery. I'm moving them watery. There we go.
What an exciting moment here in the history of Marvel Vision.
We need to change the opening
Why?
because you always say a Marvel Studios TV show podcast, but we also
Yeah.
do DC stuff. So it's not quite right anymore.
I know. I've been saying this for like 4 years, though. So,
I know. Well, I just thought of it now when you said it this time. So it's not like it's something that I've ever thought of before. It just popped up in my mind.
My brain just has this memorized and it just spits it out.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'll be able to do something and change it up a little bit. But I watched a movie called Grand Theft Hamlet.
Oh, yeah? How was that?
It's about people who put on Hamlet inside Grand Theft Auto Online.
Oh, that's it. That's actually interesting.
The movie's not that good.
Yeah.
It's like a little boring. And it's also really hard to always tell who's talking sometimes.
Okay.
But there's stuff that's really interesting about it, and there's stuff that's really like it's really funny when they're trying to like do a rehearsal and somebody just fucking shows up in an attack helicopter. Like it's very funny when that happens, and they're like, "Please don't kill us. We're rehearsing for Hamlet," and then the guy just guns them down. But like it's kind of sweet.
Like, what a weird setup in this game that they've added this aspect to it that you can just murder like street performers.
But they decided to take advantage of the entirety of Grand Theft Auto. So that they got this idea when they found the Vinewood Bowl, the Hollywood Bowl. Yeah. And they said, "Oh, we could put on a play on the stage here." But then they decided, well, we're in the game. Let's make this like we can do different locations. Like we don't have we can do a very different version of this. And so they go all over the place. There's one part when they're all on a blimp, and then the blimp crashes while they're in the middle of the actual performance.
So are they trying to do like the entire play on the blimp?
The entire play. No, okay. The blimp is like one part of the play. Like it's like one segment of the show.
So they're essentially trying to like make a Hamlet movie, film a Hamlet movie in GTA.
Sort of, but not really, because it's more like doing Hamlet in the world, and they have the audience follow them around.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, audience, get on the speedboat. We're going to go out to this yacht. Like it's like that. So it's not. It's more interactive, experiential. So it's not really filming a movie. They did it on a live stream, so people just watched it straight through. Okay. And then that was the deal. So then they had to do like a lot of like technical rehearsals to like figure out how long it takes to get from here to here. Is this going to work? Is the audience going to just take off because it's so boring? The movie, though, like I said, it gets a little bit draggy. And I do feel like they maybe created some drama that didn't exist. One of the problems with watching a movie, the whole thing is in GTA.
Okay.
The whole thing. There's not one part that's not in GTA. There's one part during the credits where they show you the real people, and then that's it. Otherwise, it's all in GTA. And there's like, it's hard to be sure that what's happening is really happening, or that these guys aren't just recreating stuff.
Yeah.
Or doing scenes that aren't real. Okay. Where like one guy's like, I have no life. I don't have a family. You have a family. You have other things to do. This is everything to me. And it's like very like emotional, but like, you're like, wait, did this really happen though? And did it really happen here in this location where they're showing you? Because you can't tell who's actually, their mouths just keep moving, all the different characters. Like you don't know. Like, I think whenever you make any noise on a headset, the mouth moves. Yeah. So, but anyway, it was interesting. It was just, again, it gets really slow in the middle. But it was interesting and good for these guys for doing this. They put on the entirety of Hamlet inside the world of Grand Theft Auto. Wow. And they won an award, a theater award for it.
That's pretty, I mean, it's a very cool idea.
Yeah, no, it's a very cool idea.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, no, it's, and again, there's like a lot of good bits, like where they're doing something and like shit goes wrong, or like they accidentally kill each other in the middle of a thing, like, or they're just doing something and the cops come and kill them. Like, it's like really funny. They were doing a rehearsal on the beach, and all of a sudden, for some reason, the cops showed up, and they had like SWAT teams coming down from helicopters and shit like that, and they're just like trying to like do something on the beach. It's really sometimes very funny.
That's great. Yeah.
So. They actually have a guy. They hire they have a guy come be their security, so they have to have a guy with a machine gun. But actually, no, there's a guy, and he's in an attack helicopter of his own for the actual show, and he's there overhead to kill guys if guys try to come fuck up their play.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I watched Saturday Night this weekend.
Not a good movie.
This is my thought process on watching this movie. In college, I wrote and directed a short comedy called Potluck.
Mhm.
about a stoner on a college campus trying to buy weed, and everywhere he goes, he can't find any weed, and yada yada yada. Big goofy comedy kind of thing. Uh, when I had made it, I'd never smoked pot before, and we did a couple different screenings of it. And somebody at one of the screenings was like, "It's funny. It's a very funny movie that you made, but it's obvious that it's made by someone who's never smoked pot." And like watching Saturday Night Live, I was like, "It's obvious this movie is made by people who never worked on Saturday Night Live."
Right.
Like it just doesn't. It doesn't like it should be so exciting, and like the concept is great. Okay, it's an hour and a half before the first episode goes live, should be very exciting. But they have like, oh no, we have to build a set. And it's like that definitely did not happen an hour before you went live. You weren't like, oh, we forgot to build the set. Like that's just not happening, you know. And so like it's so weirdly, there's always that discussion of things like oh, if you go too far out of realism, you lose the audience, right? The suspension of disbelief. And usually we talk about that for like sci-fi and stuff like that. With this, it was literally like 3 or 4 scenes where I'm like, there's no way this is possible. There's just no way that this is what happened. And I don't know why you're lying about it, where you could do a real-time thing up to like the last hour before the first episode and probably do something very exciting and interesting with it.
So I will say this, I don't like the movie, but I will say this for the movie. A lot of the stuff in the movie is real. I have read a lot about the history of Saturday Night Live.
Yes,
and
but,
then
but
other stuff
it's
that's
real, but
there's
it's not
other
things that
stuff
happened in the last hour.
Well, that's the thing. Other stuff, it just happened in when they were doing other episodes, and they just jammed it in here, some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I will say that the crazy thing about that movie is that it makes you feel bad for Chevy Chase.
Yes. Yeah.
Because like Uncle Milty is stealing his girlfriend, and you're like, what the fuck? How am I feeling bad for one of the worst guys alive? Like, this is crazy.
But like there's a bit in the movie where George Carlin comes out in like Roman armor, and he's like, what is this bullshit you want me to wear? Looks so stupid. But like 5 minutes before, they discussed how they'd already done dress rehearsals for the show. Like they did the whole show in dress rehearsal. So it's like he would have worn that already. Yeah. Why is this a scene now? Like that should have been during the dress rehearsal. If you hadn't been like, we're going to do this all as if it's real time, which they do not even do a good job with it being real time. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Like, what is the goal here? And also, there's like two moments with mentions of drugs, and it like that's insanity. Like these guys were all coked up out of their minds the entire time. We all know that. Like trying to act like they weren't, and it's only John Belushi and whoever that's doing drugs. Like no, man. Like they were all going nuts, and instead they're just like, I just need a cigarette. It's like no. You're doing coke. Like we all know this. Like don't try and hide it to get a PG-13 rating for some reason for your. Although I'm sure it's an R because there's a lot of cursing. But like,
no, it's an R, yeah.
Like it felt flat with that kind of stuff.
It's so funny. This is a good highlight of the difference between us, which is stuff like that didn't bother me. I was much more like you're like definitely like a detail guy. Like that stuff gets you, like you get caught up on details. For me, it was like the big swing stuff. Like, why is your movie about Saturday Night Live not funny at all? Like, why is this not funny one bit? Like, why is there no jokes in this whole thing?
Yeah,
like,
that's a
like
great question.
that's the kind of thing.
That's why I get caught up in the details, is because it's not funny.
Yeah,
because I'm just like the details are the entire movie. It's them being like, look at all the stuff that they had to do before it went live, and it's like, but you're not showing me that stuff. Actually, you're trying to trick me into thinking it's all this is in an hour. But when it's like, oh, we didn't build the set, it's like, I know that did not happen. I know they were not putting the bricks down as they're counting down.
I bet that's 100% true. That kind of thing is so specific that it feels like it's 100% true.
I don't think it is, because the concrete would not dry in time. So I think that would be a big problem for them.
Look, you got me defending Saturday Night, a movie I really dislike. That's crazy.
There you go. Good for
you. That's our relationship summed up. You got me defending something I really hate.
Your need to tell me I'm wrong goes so far that you will defend things you don't like.
Oh, it's just my genetics, man. It's just my genetics. I can't help it. I read a book this week too. I read The Magicians.
Okay.
Do you know that TV show? The Sci-Fi Channel TV show ran 5 seasons.
Yeah.
It's based on a trilogy of books. And I decided, I read the latest book by the author, and I went back and read this. It's his first book. And it's a very odd book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very odd book. It is a book where all of the characters are borderline hateable, like on purpose. Like they're like all pieces of shit, like
Yeah.
borderline just awful people. And it starts off as a ripoff of Harry Potter, and then in the back half, it becomes a ripoff of Chronicles of Narnia. But
Okay.
I think both are really well done and like really interesting. And it's very aware of it. Like these guys go to a magic school and they keep talking about like Quidditch and Hermione and shit like that. Like they're aware that Harry Potter exists in their, like all pop culture exists in their universe, except for Narnia, I
Okay.
guess, because Narnia here is this different series, but it's the same thing. And it's kind of interesting. It's a trilogy. I've begun the second book now. It's kind of fascinating, but it really, I read this book and then I watched an episode of Atlanta, and both of them felt like personal attacks on me, because the main character in this book, I recognized him so much in myself and like what a piece of shit he is and how horrible he is. And like he's like a really smart guy from Brooklyn who either doesn't apply himself properly or over applies himself and then ends up in this magic thing. And you think he's going to be like Harry Potter, but he's like kind of like middling. He's like not like he isn't like the big hero. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And then he's just like sort of like treats everybody kind of badly and like is like, and then the episode of Atlanta I watched, Donald Glover and Zazie Beetz go to a German festival because her character is half black, half German, and she's been going every year since she was a kid. And Donald Glover hates it and doesn't, and like she's like, come dance, do the funny thing, we're gonna do this crazy thing, and he's like, no, this sucks, I hate this. And the whole time he's like that, and then at the end they break up, and I'm like, oh shit, I've done that. I've been Donald Glover. I have 100% gone with my girlfriend to a thing that was important to her, and I have dragged my feet and been oh, this sucks, what the fuck is this garbage?
Yeah.
Like, and I watched it and I was curling up and dying on the couch, just dying on the couch. It was like Donald Glover came out of my television and proceeded to just berate me for 30 minutes. That's what it felt like watching this episode.
This is twice now that Donald Glover has done this to you, because he also stole your bar mitzvah where you became a werewolf.
So
he wrote that bit.
I know he did.
It's funny.
So, but it's very good. It was very, very good. And it's like something very interesting about watching something where the characters are bad and you go, oh, that's me. Like, oh no, that's me. And it really, like, having both these things happen within 1 week has put me in like a spiral, like where I'm like, do I deserve to even live? I'm these two horrible characters. I will say though, the good thing is that Donald Glover plays the shitty guy. So I like that. You know what I mean? Like he's acknowledging it within himself in some ways.
Yeah. He's probably done that.
Yeah, it's hard to. Yeah, I have been to parties with Donald Glover, and he is not fun.
No, well, that's too.
No, he is. And I met Donald Glover before he got famous. I met Donald Glover when Mystery Team played at Sundance. That's where I met him and all those guys. And even then, he could not be less interested in talking to people. He was not being funny. He was not being interesting. He was not being engaging. And he's a nobody with his little comedy movie at Sundance. And I'm pressed. And they all knew who I was too. They were all kind of like excited to meet me. And he just could not be less interested. And it was like kind of amazing. Like he's been that from the beginning.
Well, maybe
so
he was having a bad day.
No, because also I went to an Oscar party with him and it was all comedians and everybody was like doing bits and making jokes about the Oscars and he just sat there silently the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say when Community was still on and they were putting out the DVDs and they have like behind the scenes stuff, and whenever you see everybody goofing around on set, he's never goofing around. He's just sitting there. Mm-hmm. It was always kind of weird. Like, man.
Yeah, I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's just like one of those kinds of guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like probably like if you're close to him, he probably was like very fun. His brother's one of the writers on the show, so I'm sure they have like a really great ability to hang out and stuff like that. But
I don't think you're going to be in a comedy troupe for very long if you're real annoying to deal with, right? Like, because I mean, Derek Comedy was around for quite a while, so
yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, the whole premise of Saturday Night Live is that half those guys are unbearable to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, but Chevy left like a year and a half in, right? Like,
true, yeah.
But, none of them lasted on there for overly long time.
Unlike Keenan, is that who's been there for 22 years? Or is it Kel?
No, it's Keenan. I'm trying to think what his
Keenan.
last name is. I can't. Mitchell? Keenan Mitchell?
I don't remember.
I don't
He's been there
remember
for
what his last
20
name is.
something years. And that's
Yep.
actually, that feels sad to me.
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Why?
he went from a guy. I whenever I think about him, I feel I'm like, hey, good for you, man. Because he went from a guy who joined Saturday Night Live and people were like the guy
The
from
Good Burger Kid?
the Good Burger Kid who's on all that. Like, come on, really? Come on. And now he's like, oh, he's the icon of Saturday Night Live. He is there. He is the current Phil Hartman of Saturday Night Live.
Is he?
Yes, they all love him. They put him in sketches all the time. They love him. He's great. I guess I don't watch it. I don't watch Saturday Night Live, so I can't say if he's great or not. But like, he's definitely, I think, a very funny guy. And
the history of Saturday Night Live is such that being there for 20 years feels like you're stuck. Like it feels stuck.
I mean,
and
he had a sitcom for like 2 years.
No, I know. He's on
Saturday Night Live.
He's on other stuff. No, I know that.
I think he just likes
he's been in movies.
Yeah.
It just seems weird to me. I don't know. There's something about Saturday Night Live that should be young people. One.
Sure.
Like, I think once you're over 30, I think you probably don't belong on Saturday Night Live anymore. And if you're 40, you're definitely
Phil Hartman didn't join until after he was 30. And Phil Hartman's one of the gods.
Well, okay. So I guess I will say that if you're not successful when you first join, you can be older.
Okay.
I think that's fair. But like, I don't know. It just feels weird to me to spend an entire lifetime.
Phil Hartman was a successful writer by that point.
Not a performer, though.
He was not a performer. No.
But like, that's the thing, is that it just feels like weird to be there for a whole lifetime. That just feels so strange to me.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree.
There are people alive today who can vote who have never known a Saturday Night Live without him on it.
When did he join? I think I think it is Kel and not Keenan. No, I'm thinking about it.
Oh no, we're in trouble. Is it Kel Mitchell?
Kel Mitchell. Nope, Kel is the other guy. Okay.
Yeah, it's Keenan.
Keenan and Kel.
You could tell we're Gen X because Thompson. Like a millennial would know these guys backwards and forwards, and like we're like moderately aware they exist, but like we're not good burger.
He's 46 years old.
Yeah.
He joined in 2003.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's 21 years ago.
21 years. Yeah, he can now legally drink. His Saturday Night Live tenure can legally drink.
Crazy. I don't get it, man. But good for him. He's making a lot of money. He's having a nice time. He's having fun, I guess, right? That's what's important.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't want to do that for 22 years.
I don't know. He seems to enjoy it, you know.
I guess so.
I hope he enjoys it.
That's the real happiness, right? Finding your thing and then just sticking with it.
Yeah.
Like not always having your eyes. That's what Luke Skywalker has to learn. You can't always be looking over the horizon. You got to look where you are right now and learn to appreciate what you got.
Yeah, and hopefully he does. I hope he's
having Buddhism.
A good time, you know,
that's Buddhism.
Yeah.
All right, we got any news this week?
We got a lot of news this week.
Okay.
Starting with Captain America: Brave New World second weekend has a 68% drop.
Oof.
That is rough. Not great. Struggling. It's going to struggle to get to 200 million domestic. So we'll see how that goes. But it has now made more than the Marvels or Quantumania, so it's got that going for
it. Okay. But it's not going to make as much as the first Captain America, I think, right? Is that the deal? Like global?
No, I
think somebody's said that. I thought, but
I think it might be close. I'm not sure. I don't know what the first Avenger made. I think first Avenger made like 3 something.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it's going to, but
yeah,
who knows? Supposedly, DC Studios held a secret press conference on Friday.
They did.
And news will be coming out this week about it. And nobody can agree whether or not it's big news. Yeah.
I mean, I've spoken to people who were there. It's not big news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why hold a press conference?
Oh, they showed clips and they did like little interviews and stuff like that. This is not that unusual.
Okay.
It's just that people find out about it and then the internet doesn't know how anything works. And so that's the deal. It's not it's super not unusual. They just didn't want stuff being like live tweeted. They wanted like to give people a chance to go home and write up pieces, yada yada yada. It's nothing. I don't think it's anything crazy, unless the folks who told me this are lying to me. That their NDAs are so intense that even like their group chats, they can't reveal information in. That they're afraid that DC has access to their group chat.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe if that is the case, I am gonna fucking drag them in the group chat. I am gonna come in hard.
What if they only gave big news to certain people?
Um,
Is that possible?
That is possible. That is possible. You never know.
So who knows? Anyway, Spider-Man 4 has been delayed a week. It's moving a week back from its original July week release to the 31st, from the 24th to the 31st.
So Spider-Man 4 in trouble.
Yep.
That is the headline. Spider-Man 4 in trouble. Yep. Marvel delays Spider-Man movie.
What's wrong? They needed another week. The creator of Sentry, Paul Jenkins, says that he is contracted with Marvel to write a Sentry movie, but only if they want to do one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't know how that worked out, but good for you, Paul Jenkins. I hope they decide to do one and you get paid.
Yeah, that makes good sense. I mean, they nailed their writer down. They're thinking about spinning that guy off. Yeah.
Yeah. Marvel has paused development on Nova, Strange Academy, and Terror Incorporated.
So the Nova, I'm not surprised. I just don't understand why they were making a Nova TV show in the first place. It just never made any sense to me.
Yeah.
Strange Academy is kind of a bummer.
Supposedly they're pausing Strange Academy because they're going to do an X-Men Academy show instead. Which I don't know why it would be called X-Men Academy and not.
Well, it probably would not be called that. They're probably was this like in Deadline or something?
No, this is like just a rumor by like
scoopers. I would be surprised if they call it X-Men Academy. I mean, they might call it New Mutants or something like that. But that's a bummer because I kind of like that concept and it would give Wong a big platform.
Yeah.
However, the fact that they were ever developing Terror Inc. is insane to me.
My only theory is that Kevin Feige was on like a bender for like months and came out of it. And he was like, they were like, here's the latest on Terror Incorporated. He's like, all right, stop everything. What is going on? Why are we doing Terror Incorporated? What happened?
Yeah, it's so Terror, for the folks that don't know, because almost nobody knows about this comic. It was a 90s comic from a very experimental era of Marvel. And it's about a guy who's a detective named Terror. And his deal is that he takes body parts and attaches them to himself and gets the abilities and maybe memories of those body parts, if I remember correctly. And he uses it to solve crimes. And he's like a detective. He's like a noir detective. Like he's in a trench coat and shit. And he's got
ghoul. Big whiskers.
And he's a ghoul. He's a horrifying looking ghoul. And it's not a very good comic. It's kind of like one of those ideas where you're like, this would have been like a really interesting storyline. Like to bring this character in as in a storyline, but I'm not convinced this is a character who does his own comic.
It's something, when it was coming out, I remember thinking like, man, this would be a really good like Vertigo comic where they could go all out with it.
They could go hard on it. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
because the idea of like, hey, I'm a rotting detective that can take other body parts and then gain their abilities and memories. There's something interesting there. But when you're trying to do it for under the comics code, not that interesting.
No, it just was not very good. And so, I mean, Terror Inc. is a good name. Obviously, it's derived from Murder Inc., which was the gangster thing. But like, it's a good name. I mean, maybe that's the whole premise. They were like, Terror Inc. is a fucking great name. What can we do with it? I mean, maybe that's the way that it worked because Marvel's not afraid of like changing things around. But it was crazy to hear they were developing Terror Inc. It was so insane to me.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Like, I guess one question is how far into it were they in development? You know,
probably not that far. This is like finding out that DC was developing Major Bummer into a TV show.
I could see more. Like, oh, we could do like a sitcom for like ABC.
Yeah, I guess that's actually a sip, but that's also a character that nobody's ever heard of. That's just a story that nobody. What's happening?
There's a big bang. I don't know what it was.
That was not here. You are haunted, my friend. All of your time watching haunt shows.
Maybe.
Do you ever watch a haunt show and then have to keep your lights on when you go to bed?
No.
No, you're never afraid?
No. Not of ghosts. No.
What are you afraid of?
The last movie to really creep me out was the original Strangers. That did it for me. That movie I went to see with my friend John Humber, and we went to like a midnight showing, and we came out of it, and I was like, that was fantastic. He was like, that was stupid. And I was like, I loved it. I thought it was great. That's the kind of thing I'm terrified by. And then he was driving me back to my apartment, and we got to my apartment, and standing outside my apartment in the doorway was just some guy who was like silhouetted by the light. And when he pulled up, we sat there for a moment and he was like, "Hey, you want to go get coffee?" I was like, "Yeah, let's go get coffee." And we just drove away. And I always think back to that. Those are like that Last House on the Left. Those are the kind of movies that creep me out, where it's just like some crazy people showed up and decided to murder everybody. Because that seems real to me.
I like to think that The Stranger scares you because you're afraid of people coming over your house.
Well, that might be the whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, The Stranger's Last House on the Left.
People come over my house. This is very terrifying. I can't deal with this.
The John Belushi Neighbors. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? It's a nightmare.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
Good question. What is next? Brad Winderbaum confirmed that we will be seeing more in Moon Knight, but not a second season of Moon Knight.
Boo.
So I guess Moon Knight's going to be in Avengers, would be my guess.
Yeah, Avengers, or if they do Midnight Suns.
Yep.
If also that's possible, the way that works.
Yeah. He also, seemingly a threat, said Netflix's Defenders in the MCU is inevitable. So it seems like they're just resigned. Like we have no choice. We have to do it. So like, I don't know who's got a gun to their head, but there you go.
What if he means the comics Defenders, the team where you're like, why are these people on a team together? Which is always one of my favorite conceits about the Defenders is a bunch of guys on a team like, what the fuck are these people doing together? What is happening here?
Why is Namor hanging out with Doctor Strange and the Incredible Hulk?
and Valkyrie and Beast and Iceman? Like, what the fuck is happening?
Hey, it's Gargoyle. Let's get him on here.
I love that about the original Defenders, was that it just never really made sense. You know, this never really cohered.
No, but it lasted like 100 issues.
152 issues, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Brad also said that they are currently discussing ideas for Hawkeye season 2. Mm-hmm. It's good to jump on your season 2 5 years after the first season. That's a good call. Really, really moving quick on that. And they also want to do a second season of Agatha All Along, but they don't want to rush it. And as we know with Hawkeye, they're not way to wait 5 years.
Well, you know, what's her name that ran it doesn't want to do a second season. So
yes. Yeah.
But they might just appease her and just do the same thing they did with WandaVision, which is just do a whole new show. And it's obviously just the second season of that show.
Well, I mean, you take Wiccan and Agatha and they're on their little adventure, right?
Right, exactly. But you would just have to call it something else. Yeah. That would have but that, you know, that seems like the most obvious way to do it.
I'm all for that.
Me too. Me too.
You know, I thought Agatha All Along was great. So go.
Agreed.
Supposedly, this is from Twitter person called Embargo Lifts. So I don't know how trustworthy this is. But supposedly the review embargo for Daredevil Born Again lifts on March 4th at 6 p.m. East or Pacific, which is also the same exact time that the show premieres.
Yeah, that's probably right.
So that seems concerning.
It's either concerning or there's major spoilers in the first 2 or 3 episodes that they don't want dropped.
Yeah.
It's one or the other. Or maybe they just are like, who cares? Like, we don't, you know, let's not take the air out of the room. I mean, I don't know what it means. But embargo stuff is always mysterious and the decision making is always opaque.
Yeah. The social embargo is tomorrow.
Okay, so
that's just good, right?
That suggests, because that's going to go farther than the actual reviews, because the first tweets that say this is a piece of shit or this is incredible are going to get really fucking amplified.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll find out. And part of good news, Tony Dalton will be in Born Again.
In the first season or the second season?
That I don't think anyone said.
Yeah, the way it was reported made it sound like, because they're shooting the second season now, apparently, it made it sound like he's coming back for the second season.
Yeah.
He played Swordsman in Hawkeye, and he played the greatest villain in the Breaking Bad universe, Lalo.
Yes.
And he was, we loved him in Hawkeye, and then we double loved him in Better Call Saul. And it's exciting to see this character come back, but I just don't know if it's this first season or if it's going to be during the season they're shooting right now.
Does not say.
That's the thing. It was not clear. It wasn't clear to me. So
whatever the case, that makes me excited.
I'm very happy.
Yes, because I liked him a lot.
Yeah, he's a great actor. He's got a great presence. That's a fun character. I would like to hopefully see him maybe look a little bit more like a comic book character this time around.
Sure.
But, you know, On a Daredevil show, that's not probably likely to happen.
No. Also, this past week, James Gunn and Zack Snyder got together and hung out, took a picture together, which now has everyone freaking out because everyone seems to forget that they both kind of got their big break together, and they've been friends for like almost 30 years at this point, I suppose, a very long time. But yeah, so people got very, very concerned and or excited by this. Depending on where you went, people were either concerned, like, oh, is Snyder going to do something in DC, or excited, oh, maybe Snyder's going to do something in DC, or option 3, Gunn is so scared he's trying to get Snyder to say he's good so that the Snyder bros will go see Superman.
Yeah, I mean, there was some pretty unhinged conspiracy stuff going on around this picture that was pretty incredible.
Yeah,
it just seems like they were probably in the same place, and they would be like, "Hey, wouldn't it be great to put a picture of us together?" the end. Like that's it. Yeah. That's probably the whole deal. Like that's it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if Gunn was like, "Hey, why don't you come by, check out Superman? Tell me what you think." Because I mean,
Gunn, I would be surprised.
I would not be surprised because Gunn has spoken for years that he likes Snyder, and Snyder has spoken that he likes Gunn, that they both think they're both good filmmakers. I wouldn't be surprised. He's like, "Hey, man, you did a Superman. How many people can I talk to that have done Superman? Why don't you come?" I don't think maybe he's not going to take his advice or whatever, but hey, tell me what you think of this.
I'm not really convinced that makes sense. No? I don't think Zack Snyder's going to be able to deliver notes. I think as the marketing says, he's a visionary filmmaker. He's got his own thing. Like, I don't think Zack Snyder could show up at your movie. I think one of the things about the first Wonder Woman, he was producer on that and he was heavily involved, and you can tell. You can tell that he was heavily involved in that. And so that's why I don't know that that's a great guy to get notes from. And I'm not really, I mean, it might just be they were just in the same fucking area. I mean, I'm sure there's a part of Gunn too. He's a mischievous guy. He probably knew this would cause a little bit of a freak out. That's part of the deal. He probably thought that would be very funny. So.
There's one Snyder bro, and I can't remember who it is on the Discord, but they always put up this one person's comments from Reddit that are like really crazy and really disturbing. And my new theory is that that's actually just James Gunn or one of his friends screwing around, because they are such crazy ideas. Like, they're such crazy conspiracies.
Yeah, they're pretty nuts.
Yeah. But
all right.
And also on that same note, I don't think Snyder would do something in DC where he doesn't have full control.
No, I don't think he would come back to that ever.
No.
I can't imagine that.
No, I don't see a reason why he would.
I mean, just also he got the whole public perception around it is such that it would feel like he was coming back on his knees. It would not feel good. I don't think.
I think from both ends it would not feel good. It would be he's after Rebel Moon did not do well with Netflix. He's crawling back, and Warner Brothers is so worried about DC that they're bringing him back. Right. So that doesn't work out for anybody. Meanwhile, while still unconfirmed, Luca Guadagnino did a Q&A wearing a DC Studios sweatshirt. So it's seeming like he's going to be making something. If it's not Sergeant Rock, it's something, I would think. And also, Daniel Craig has dropped out of Sergeant Rock, which has not yet been confirmed.
He didn't drop out of Sergeant Rock. He was never in Sergeant. Yeah, he was never signed on. He didn't drop out. They were talking to him about it, and because he had just done Queer, and I'm sure Luca had been talking to him about it, hey, we're doing this thing, and Craig probably had been huh, interesting, and then he decided against it. I mean, that happens all the time in Hollywood. And I think one of the problems with scoop culture is that the people that are doing this either don't understand this happens all the time, or they don't care. They just have something they can put on their Patreon now. Now they do it all on Patreon.
Yeah.
And that's all they care about. So I'm, he was never in it. This is not a sign of trouble with Sergeant Rock. This is not a sign of creative differences. He just was never in it, and it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah. Supposedly it's now Jeremy Allen White that they're talking to for it. So we'll see.
He's a little short.
He is a little short, but he's a good actor. I could see him doing it.
He's a little short.
Sure, but
I think Rock is
stand on some Apple boxes.
I mean, that could be the deal. I feel like Rock is a 6 foot tall hulking guy.
Yeah, I mean he's usually shown that way in the comics.
Yeah,
but who knows?
Everybody's going to call him Sergeant Pebble if they hire Jeremy Allen White.
Maybe. Sergeant Large Boulder, size of a small boulder. It's one of my favorite news headlines of all time. We got our first look for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 2 of Gwen Stacy and Spider-Gwen. They put out images of them.
Very shocking to put that out so early.
Yeah. I guess they're excited. They want to get it out there.
Yeah, I mean, good for them. I mean, I thought that the designs look great. I am curious how Spider-Gwen works in this, like what the deal is, like how she's going to be introduced.
Yeah.
And I also like the idea that if they're bringing Gwen as Spider-Gwen, that means that we're not going to have to spend all of our time waiting for her to fall off a bridge.
Yes.
Like that's one of the things about Gwen Stacy. That's her only story that anybody knows other than now Spider-Gwen. And so every time she shows up, everybody's like, well, is she going to fall off the bridge or not? And it's like, well, maybe we don't have to do that anymore. Maybe we can do something different. We've dropped her off a lot of bridges at this point.
Yeah.
If not her, even her, other people too. But like, yeah, it's just enough bridges.
Yes. We've had enough with bridges and Spider-Man at this point.
Yeah.
We've seen it. We've seen it plenty.
Yeah.
So there you go. Back to DC. James Watkins will be directing Clayface. So we got that going.
A lot of negative sentiment about this on our Discord.
Yeah.
And I was surprised because I don't know. This Clayface movie is like $30 to $50 million. So this is a mid-budget movie, and it's being described as sort of a horror movie. And Watkins is a guy that's done a bunch of mid-budget horror movies.
Yes.
And there's a thing about Gunn's hiring that we've seen so far, not counting Lanterns. The two movies that we know that are actually moving. Oh, I guess we think that this is. No, we know this is moving. Like this Clayface is happening.
Yeah, Clayface is happening. They've announced the director.
He has hired 2 jobbers.
Yes,
2 working guys. He has not hired auteurs.
No,
he has not hired. He is doing George Lucas in the original trilogy.
He has hired auteurs for the scripts, but not for the directors.
Right.
Except for Supergirl, the writer of Supergirl, it's her first script. But Gunn has said that he was like, I was just blown away by it, and so that's how that got fast tracked. But Lanterns is what's his face,
right?
Lindelof, and they're coming off of Watchmen for 8,000 years ago, but still, like that's a well respected writer, right? Like that's a guy who knows how to do this kind of stuff. And then Clayface is
Mike Flanagan.
Right? So he's Gunn's focus seems to be great writers, solid directors who can get the job done.
That's the thing. I think he wants shooters who can get it done. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's the thing. I think that's for a movie like Clayface, that's a pretty good idea. Unless you have there's always that level of, especially foreign genre directors who are ready to take the next step up.
Yeah.
Who have done a bunch of midnight movies that played at Sundance, Fantastic Fest, TIFF. And then, like Issa Lopez is a good example of one of those people. And she jumped up to True Detective and made the biggest, most viewed True Detective of all time. She's back for the next season. And she had made Mexican pictures before that. And, that's a good spot to grab from. For a minute, everybody was doing that with genre. They were grabbing the foreign folks who had made really good movies on lower budgets overseas or in different countries.
Yeah.
But it seems like Gunn is not doing that. He's just doing standard. These are shooters. These are guys that can just come in, and make the day, and they'll make the day. And the movies that they turn in are reasonable. Like Eden Lake is one, and Woman in Black, or another one that James Watkins made. I like both those movies.
And Speak No Evil, that just came out.
I didn't see that one.
Neither did
but those 2 movies, I like them. They're not great. Like, I'm not going to say you gotta go see Woman in Black.
I don't think I've seen Eden Lake. I've seen Woman in Black once, and I don't remember liking it.
It's really middle of the road. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's not particularly amazing.
But it cost $17 million. It grossed over 100.
Yeah.
It clearly connected with audiences.
Yeah.
Speak No Evil did well critically. It did well financially. I think they're looking at, here are safe directors that can work on time and in budget, right? Like,
this is the George Lucas method, which is I'm going to hire Irving Kershner and Richard Marquand, who are neither of whom are auteurs.
Yeah.
They're both working directors. And so they come in to execute Lucas's vision. And that seems to be what's happening here as well.
Well, it's funny because Gunn for a long time now has said with DC, he's like, don't compare it to Marvel. It's more like Star Wars. And I was taking that as like story wise, like, oh, we'll jump to different periods and whatever and blah, 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 blah. He might be talking about the whole format of it, like script first and then we go.
Yeah, I mean, or he could be talking about the idea of like, I am the George Lucas of the DC universe, and everybody is just my little slave. So
yeah, which might be the case as well. Who knows? Who knows? He also people got very upset because he's going to be on the cover of a DC comic gun.
It's an alternate cover. Who cares?
Yeah, but you know, it's people got to know like, oh, he's putting himself in everything. It's like, I don't think he put himself in it. I think first off, I mean, it's for World's Finest, which they've done a bunch of these kinds of covers. They had Jerry Seinfeld on one. They had Paul McCartney on one. They had Guy Fieri on one. Like, I don't think it's a wild thing. It's just something they keep doing with World's Finest. Every couple of issues, they have one of these, like somebody famous on the cover hanging out with Batman and Superman.
Right.
You know, so I think Dan Moore is just like, I'm going to do James Gunn. And there you go. And then the final piece of news. This is comic book news, but it's pretty big. Marvel and DC have announced they're going to do a crossover this year in the comics.
They're going to do 2 one-shots.
Yeah, pretty bonkers.
I guess. I mean, I'm for it. Like, I'm not against it, but I think it's so funny that the whole marketplace is such that we're all really trying to figure out if this is canonical or not. And it's just like, I don't know, man. Maybe it's just gonna be like fun stories. I mean, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm
I mean, Rob Liefeld, I think, put it really well, where he's like, you can see how troubled the industry is,
right?
That Marvel and DC are doing a crossover, like,
right? Which I think has been the impetus for previous crossovers, right?
Yeah,
they were not great periods, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. Can I tell you my theory for the crossovers?
What?
I think it's going to be the Ultimate stuff and the Absolute stuff are going to cross over.
That'd be great.
I mean, those are the biggest selling books right now.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do that, right?
Yeah.
And then you can be like, it's out of continuity, but it's fun stuff. Here's Super Swole Batman hanging out with, Spider-Man and his kids. Yeah. There you go.
No, I'm all for that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be fun. And I think, it would be, we've already done Marvel DC crossovers. Like, we don't need to see it again. We don't need to watch Superman meet Spider-Man again or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm for it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm for it.
I'm for it just because hopefully it'll be fun little stories.
And yeah, that's what I hope too. I hope that they're just non-canonical stories and they're just like, Spider-Man's like, oh, I never expected you to show up here, Batman. I know, I never make it over to Gotham. I can't believe you made it over to New York. I'm okay with that. But that's
like
all.
Those are like the original crossover stories, right? Like Spider-Man and Superman. It's just like, oh, Spider-Man's got to go to Metropolis. It's like, oh, there you go.
Right.
Like, that's always more fun that way.
Right.
Batman goes to New York and runs into the Punisher.
Yep.
Which they also did with Batman Grendel, was just Batman.
Yeah.
Grendel got tired of nobody being able to challenge him, so he goes to Gotham and screws with Batman for like 2 issues, and it's a great crossover, and then it ends up being a massive part of Grendel lore that they can't republish ever again. So there you go. Good job.
You own it though, right?
I do. Yes. Yeah. I own the graphic novel of it. Yeah. Of the 2 crossovers, because they did that, like the original Grendel, Hunter Rose, and then Grendel Prime. And Grendel Prime is the one that is very important to Grendel history, because in Grendel history, the comics, if you don't know, for those that don't know, Matt Wagner's Grendel goes across like hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, starting in the 80s and then ending up post-nuclear war and all this kind of stuff. And one of the big things in the future is the skull of Hunter Rose, which is, as long as he's been showing it, had a big hole in the center, and nobody knew. He never explained where the hole came from. Mm-hmm. And then in the second Batman Grendel crossover, where Grendel Prime goes back in time, they're fighting over the bones of Hunter Rose, and Batman puts a batarang through Hunter Rose's skull, and that's how the hole happened. And it's like, oh, there you go. Yeah. So, yeah. It's a great, anyone out there has not read Grendel, Matt Wagner's Grendel stuff and the Grendel Tale stuff, an amazing, amazing epic of comics that I personally think does not get enough attention. Like, I don't know why it's not constantly discussed by people. Like when they're talking about the great sagas and comics, and they're like, "Oh, look at what Hickman did over here, or look at Alan Moore over here." Matt Wagner's Grendel is an amazing saga, and it's like, I don't know, it shocks me it doesn't get more attention from people. And what are you gonna do? I mean, Matt Wagner's made a career out of it, so I don't think he's too sad, but he's probably sad that they made a Netflix show that nobody ever put out. But beyond that, what are you gonna do? And that's it for news.
He still got paid. There's one other piece of news. Disney Plus / Marvel has put the first episode of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man up for free on YouTube.
Oh, there you go.
So if you listen to this program, I know there's more than one person who listens to this program just for this stuff in the front and then does not necessarily watch the shows or listen to the back half. But if you've been curious about it and you don't have Disney Plus, the first episode is available on YouTube for free, the entire episode.
There you go.
Yeah, pretty nice.
There you go.
All right, do we have letters, questions, mail?
We do. This is from John Shannon. He says, "Smooch, marry, kill. Furio, Bach, and the Lion Cub." It took me a while to figure out that this was a question about Wicked, but I figured it out when I Googled Furio. Or Firio? I don't know.
Oh, Fierro.
Fierro.
You said Furio. I'm like, is this a Sopranos thing? Like, is this...
Yeah.
What were they? It was Lion Cub, Fierro, and who else?
Bach. B-O-Q.
Bach. That's the Munchkin kid who's dating Elphaba's sister in the wheelchair, Nessa Rose.
Yeah.
Fuck, marry, kill. I'm gonna fuck Fierro because he seems really fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna marry the Lion Cub because he's so sweet, and I would like to be in bed with him every night, snuggling. That seems really nice. That seems like very, very warm.
Okay.
But like, it's gonna be one of those sexless marriages. You know what I mean? Like,
I would hope so.
Like most modern marriages.
Yep.
And that means kill is Bach.
Yep.
I gotta kill Bach. That's okay with me.
I have the same 3 format. Furio, he's a looker. Can't argue with that.
He's
Lion
rich.
Cub. I just don't. I can't see myself killing a little baby lion.
Or fucking it, yeah.
Or fucking it.
I can't do those two things with a Lion Cub.
And Bach, I have a strict no shorties rule. So Bach, you gotta die. That's how that works out.
There we go. All right, what's the next one?
The next one is from Eric P. And he says, this question is for you, Devin. With Adrian Brody receiving so much attention for The Brutalist, I was reminded of the 2010 San Diego Comic-Con. I believe you had mentioned in your BMD coverage that Brody had that you had every reason to believe that Brody would be cast as Hank Pym. What's the backstory? Was that just bad intel, or did something happen that fell through? Not trying to dredge up a bad scoop from over a decade ago. Just something I've been thinking about.
Boy, that's tough because that's a long time ago. I had really good intel on the Avengers, the original version of the Avengers, because the Avengers that Joss Whedon made is not the Avengers that Marvel was putting together.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to remember that Ant-Man was supposed to be one of the first 3 movies,
and he was supposed to be in the Avengers. So I think that at that time when Edgar Wright was still making Ant-Man, and they were going to have Ant-Man in the Avengers, I think that they had been talking to Brody. I think that's, but the thing is, I got that from, I still don't, I'm not going to tell you who I got it from, but I got it from a very good source. You know what I mean? Like, this is not like a rumor. This was somebody who would know. And they told me, but then that whole plan fell apart. That just didn't work out that way. So that version of the Avengers never got made. There was a script and everything for that version of the Avengers, and then Whedon came in and redid everything. They hadn't even, like, everything had, was very fluid at that point. They were still going to have Edward Norton as Hulk in the Avengers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I ever told this story. This is not my story. Like, somebody else told me this story. So, but I'm going to tell it anyway, because it's a great story, which is that they had a first meeting, like a script meeting with all the actors, and Edward Norton was there. And while they're talking, he says to Joss Whedon, "This is a pretty good script, but I think it's gonna be much better when I'm done rewriting it." And then that was the day that Edward Norton lost the job of the Hulk, basically. So that's the story I heard. That one I heard from somebody else. That could just be a gossip. I don't know, but I've always liked it. It always sounded correct to me. I was like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then our final question is from Shadow Fax Machine on the Discord. He says, "What is your dream combo of director and writer and property for a comic book or Star Wars movie? For instance, Scorsese crime flick set in Star Wars Underworld or Spielberg X-Men. Those are dumbass examples. I know, just throwing them out there."
I would. So this is not real. This is just like fantasy stuff.
If you were in charge and you could automatically formate anything you wanted. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even sure that even in that scenario, this is a good idea, but I am intrigued by the idea of Sean Baker making either Marvels or a similar kind of movie in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Sean Baker's thing is that he's so good with the small stories, and he tends to focus on sex workers, which is not necessarily Marvel. So maybe in Star Wars it would be like one of those Twi'lek dancers, like a Sean Baker movie about a Twi'lek dancer. Like I think I would. And she gets like caught up with like one of the cartels and something like that. I would think I would like to see that. I think that would be really, really fun. Or I would like to see a Paul Thomas Anderson really weird Old Republic movie.
Okay.
I think that would be the other one I would like to see.
All right. This shows how different we are, because I've had a dream since the first time I saw Land of the Lost, which I saw with you when I saw it. The Land of the Lost movie. Danny McBride as Guy Gardner. And my whole thought is it would be funny because you become a Green Lantern based on your willpower, your belief in yourself, but nothing about being smart. And Guy Gardner's not very smart.
Right.
And I think Danny McBride making a movie about an idiot who becomes a Green Lantern and runs around doing stupid stuff, I'm all for it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good. That's like, because Danny McBride is like the next the other person who would be. Although maybe he would not be a good Guy Gardner, but in that same vein is Will Ferrell, who also made a real career out of playing guys who don't realize how stupid they are, and truly believe in themselves well beyond all reasonable levels. Although Danny McBride is closer to Guy Gardner in terms of persona, because McBride is like mean and foul.
Yeah, and if you watch like Eastbound and Down, give that guy a power ring, it's a Guy Gardner show.
Yeah.
And I've also at times been like, Dan McBride would also be great for Lobo. I think he would be very fun for Lobo.
Be incredible as Lobo. I mean, and I think I wouldn't even want McBride to get into shape for it. Like I think I would want like a beer gut Lobo. Like 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. No, in neither case should Danny McBride be in shape. He should look like Danny McBride. That's part of the fun of it to me.
But he'd be a great Lobo. I mean, that is actually, Momoa is like physically a great Lobo. Like if you're looking at like Simon Bisley covers and shit like that, that's okay. That's great. But like in every other level, Dan McBride is an incredible fucking Lobo. Just an incredible Lobo. And he would be so fucking funny as Lobo.
He would be
and I think a lot of people, this is a thing we've talked about before, Lobo's a joke.
Yes.
And people don't get that. And but he was a joke. I mean, he wasn't created as a joke. He started Omega Men, but like once he started like being like a popular
his
character,
first miniseries, right?
Is a joke. Yeah.
Is a joke. And then Lobo's back is even further of a joke.
Yeah, like Lobo kills Santa Claus and shit like that.
Yeah, paramilitary Christmas, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. He's a joke. He's a joke on those kinds of characters. That's what would make Danny McBride really great in that role.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's what I would like to see.
Yeah, that's
Danny
pretty good.
McBride is either Guy Gardner or Lobo, which
that's pretty good.
McBride
was making a superhero movie.
He was?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It was a movie. It was an original script called Henchman. And McBride was going to play the henchman of a supervillain.
Okay.
And I mean, like, you can just see that movie already. Like, that's just like, you already can tell, like, what that is going to be like. So, yeah, he was working on that for a little while. And I think that went away.
There were rumors a while back that he was working on a show for DC, that him and who are
David
his
Gordon
writing
Green?
partners? And then David Gordon Green, we're going to be doing something for
Or
DC.
Jody Hill.
It might have been Jody Hill. Whoever it is that he does Righteous Gemstones with, which I think is Hill, right? That they were going to do something for DC, and then all that sound went quiet. But now Righteous Gemstone is coming to its over, right? It's done. Maybe they're doing a show for DC. Who knows? Or maybe not. Whatever Danny McBride does next, I'm going to be there because I've loved all of his shows. I think he's amazing, you know, and especially like again with Lobo. Go watch This Is the End.
Oh yeah,
he's just Lobo in that movie.
He's just Lobo in that. Yeah.
No, it's amazing.
It's amazing. That's a movie that I really would like people to rediscover, because it really has the energy of those old Bugs Bunny cartoons where they would go to like Hollywood clubs and all the celebrities would be like goofy versions of themselves in this.
Yeah.
It really is kind of amazing. Yeah. It's a very funny movie.
That is a movie that unfortunately this can never happen. But with that and Pineapple Express, I was like, fucking
James Franco
and I can't think of his name. The other guy,
Rogen,
Seth Rogen, should be like the new Abbott and Costello. Just them, give them different character names, whatever, doesn't make a difference. They're just playing themselves, running around, meeting Dracula, doing whatever. Like I would watch 100 movies like that. Obviously, that's never going to happen now. But those two movies should, to me, prove, that's what you got to do. Like these two together in wacky scenarios, funny. Yeah. I even like The Interview, you know, which a lot of people don't like.
I like The Interview a lot, and I saw The Interview at the screening at it might have been South by, where Kim Jong-un threatened to nuke Austin.
There you
go. We went to the screen. There was unbelievable security, because they were worried about a terrorist attack, like a regular terrorist attack, but like there was this sense that like could a nuke fly, and it could not fly from North Korea, but it was like we are sitting in a movie theater risking our lives to watch this movie.
To watch a movie where they discuss whether or not Kim Jong-un has a butthole.
That's the movie that fucked up Sony so bad because the North Koreans did hack Sony and put all of their shit on the internet.
Yeah.
And that was like that very
movie,
intense.
Spider-Man would not be in Civil War.
It's true.
Think about that.
It's true.
Think about that.
That's
that is
crazy. But I like
the show we're about to talk about would not exist without The Interview.
Yeah. But I like The Interview. It's not great. Isn't their best work.
No.
But I enjoy it. It's funny.
Yes.
And it's silly. And so.
Yeah.
All right. You ready to talk about the final 2 episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 1?
I am.
Let's do it. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 1, Episodes 7 and 8, Hero or Menace, and If This Be My Destiny. So, you know, one of the things we had mentioned previously that we liked the opening credits. One thing we never talked about is that the opening credits homages the Batman TV show.
It does?
Yeah, there's like sound effects written on the screen.
Yeah.
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 For a second there, I thought I lost you because you were just looking down silently.
I was like, is there a shot of him like punching random thugs?
I know it's like him fighting villains, and there's like thwack, pow, you know, and then like when he picks up Pearl and she yells, there's like that comes. That's 100% a reference to the Batman.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah. Also, each opening credits ends with a different cover.
This pisses me off.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh, why?
Every cover has the same issue number.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, they're all number 90, and that pisses me off because there's no reason that they should not be numbered to the episode. Else, there's no reason. Like I'm like, damn you guys, damn you. Anyway, Doc Ock's in jail.
I love that Doc Ock is not just in jail. He's in jail, still wearing his costume and lab coat.
It's really good. Yeah,
I love it.
And he's locked up because the Sokovia Accords.
Yeah,
which I'm not really convinced apply to him.
He's not either. As we see, as he's going through the Accords, he says everyone in New York has broken these Accords. So
I like that a lot. Norman Osborn shows up and they have a meeting through the glass, the classic meeting. I like when Norman picks up the phone. He takes his handkerchief first and uses that. And so Norman's just there to gloat.
Norman is just there to be a petty bitch.
Yeah,
that is all he's doing.
It's crazy how awful he is.
Yeah.
And he's like, it was me, Otto. I did it. I called General Ross. I told him where you were. And guess what? The deal I made was I get all your shit. Like, it's all mine now. Norman
could have just sent that meme from Game of Thrones with the old lady going, tell them it was me. That's all he had to do.
So Otto's very mad about it, and he starts losing his fucking shit. And then he has to get pulled away by the guards because he's truly losing his shit. And he is telling Norman Osborn what a piece of crap he is, basically.
Yeah.
And then we cut to a scene that does truly answer the concern that we had last.
I do want to say one thing with that scene.
What?
Otto like punches the glass barrier between them, and it cracks. And I know nothing about animation. I don't know if this is difficult to do or if it's easy to do, but all around the crack, the image is now warped. And I was really impressed by that. I was like, wow, that seems like something that would take a long time, but with how animation is now, I don't know if it does take a long time, but that somebody thought about that and they put it in there. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah. You know what? This show got a lot of shit for its animation when it first started. I have always been pro this show's animation. And I think now by episode 8, I think everybody has turned the corner and like, oh no, this actually looks really good.
There are still things with the animation that I struggle with. Hair is not good. The hair does not look good. It's the way it moves feels off. There's no like flow to the hair for a lot of the characters, especially what's her face? Not Nico, the other girl.
Pearl.
Her hair looks very odd. And there's a scene in this episode where it's a shot of Peter from behind, and he's got the little flap, and it just keeps going like boop boop boop, and it's like it's the kind of thing that like in a video game you'd be like, oh, the textures are bumping against each other a little bit, and it's causing a problem. Where here it's supposed to be like movement as he's moving his head, and it looks off, and but I like the style, and I like I said when we first started this, I like the style, and I like that they're doing something different.
Right.
So is it perfect? No, but they're doing something different, and I give them a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, they're not doing Spider-Verse, and they're not doing anime, which is the two dominant forms of animation right now. Those are the two dominant things that you see.
And they're not doing What If, which I despise.
That cell shading look, yeah. We had a big concern, which was why the fuck did Chameleon give Big Donovan and the 110th Street Gang the information about Doc Ock's place when it's already been taken by the feds? Yeah. And here Donovan thinks this is great because this means that it's all been packed up for them already. So he's pretty excited about it. And he goes and takes his guys to go steal this stuff from the car. And it's a dumb idea. He's like,
there's only the whole concept. Like, oh, it's just a couple of cops.
Just a couple of so stupid. On the one hand, though, is that if they believe there are super weapons in the back of it, if they can get past these two squad cars, whoever comes at them, they can take out.
Yeah.
However, that's a real comic book idea, like where there's like a truck full of super weapons and you're gonna be able to pick them up and use them, as opposed to like looking at what the fuck is this thing?
I don't even know what this is. Yeah.
I have no idea how this thing works. There's so many buttons on it. Nico and Pearl are walking, and they are just right in the middle of this whole thing. And
they're having some boba tea.
Yeah. And
the most disgusting drink of all.
It's great. I love boba. I love good boba.
A drink that I'm sipping on it, and all of a sudden there's a ball of goo in my mouth.
Oh, it's so good.
Nope.
Boba is one of the best, man. Also, you can feel the taro ball coming up the straw. Like, it's not a surprise.
I don't care. I don't like the texture. I don't like it. And when Nico sucks one up and she's chewing on it, I was like, whoa.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Whoa. I love it so much. We got a boba place. We got 2 boba places within walking distance of my house. And it really is tough because I would be having them all the time, but they're just so much sugar. It's just so sugary.
Yeah.
The ones that I like anyway, and also it's a milk tea. So it's like, I have the farts like you wouldn't believe after having a good boba. Anyway, they're about to get smashed by this truck, and then all of a sudden, Spider-Man shows up and saves them. And he's wearing the red and blue costume.
It's Nico. what's her face? Why can't I remember her name?
Pearl.
Pearl just vanishes.
Yeah, she just leaves the
Takes
scene.
off. Yeah.
He's in his red and blue costume, and I think it's a good way to introduce it. I think it's a really strong way. Him saving his best friend, I think, is a very strong way to bring that costume in. And the effect of this thing for Nico is that she finally seems to understand what Pete's doing.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was too abstract for her previously, and then to actually be on the receiving end of a save, it makes it very real to her. Like, oh, wow, this is...
Now that's happened to me.
That's how human beings are, man.
I guess.
And then the Scorpions show up and with Matt Gargan. And
before we get to that, I do want to discuss Spider-Man's suit.
Yeah.
One, I think the symbol on the chest is too small.
That's the classic symbol.
Opinion. It's too small. I went and looked at Ditko art. His is bigger.
Okay.
So it's never been that small. And two, this brings into something that's always kind of bugged me in the MCU. And in this, it fixes it because we know that this is Peter's design.
Mm-hmm.
So in the MCU, did Peter give Tony his little drawings and Tony based the suit on that? Or is he wearing a suit that Tony designed top to bottom, T to B? Because I don't like the idea that Tony came up with the look.
You know, I never thought about it, but I don't think Tony would design that.
I don't either, but it's never stated in Civil War.
So your headcanon is that Peter...
My headcanon is that Peter was like...
I think that's fine.
This is what I always want to look like. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's... Yeah, this is... If I could have made this is what it would look like instead of the hoodie and the mask. Like, if this is what I was aiming for, but I couldn't...
Like how it is here, right? He's got the little drawings and stuff. And, you know, or like in Raimi's Spider-Man where he does a little drawing and then he has an incredibly expensive costume.
So the Scorpions show up, and one of the things I like about this show is this show is really dedicated to having the two gangs fight with bats and sticks and fists. I honestly do like that. Like, it's so dumb, and like people have guns on this show. It isn't like there's like not even guns.
Yeah.
But like there's just something sweet about this that they have a kind of chivalry, like where they have to meet in physical combat.
Yes. Also, there's a good pun in this sequence.
Which is what?
Where the Scorpion's right hand, what's her face?
Camilla Black
says, the 1/10 is at 1/10 of their strength. That made me very happy.
Matt Gargan's now got a mask on and shit, and he gives Peter some PTSD.
Yes.
Pete does not love seeing the Scorpion there. No. It's a real problem. And Mac almost kills Big Donovan, but Lonnie saves him, and then Lonnie goes into the truck to find some weapons. And as we theorized, he gets his tombstone powers when a canister of gas opens up. I don't love it, but also at the same time, it's such a comic book origin that I can't be mad at it. Like, here's a canister of gas that exploded in my face. Like, oh, sure, why not? I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Like, how many people have that exact fucking origin? So I can't
90% of them, right? Yeah.
So
Scorpion says in the scene,
yeah,
maybe I just don't know enough. Maybe this is a culturally inappropriate question, but he says, he looks at Lonnie and Spider-Man and he says, my two favorite piñatas. Do people have a favorite piñata? Because don't you just smash them?
No, that's the premise is he likes beating up on them. That's it. It's not really... Nobody would say this is my favorite piñata. They would say...
Right, okay.
But the premise is he's just saying, I like beating up on you guys. Like, this is my thing. I enjoy beating up on you guys. No, nobody would say my favorite...
Right? I was like, I don't think you keep a piñata. Except for that one kid who they got the Spider-Man piñata for and he hugs it, which is a beautiful little video. But...
So Spidey's fighting the Scorpion. He's holding his own, more or less. And things aren't going that great, and he still hasn't unleashed himself, like, which is what Norman keeps telling him to do. And then at that moment, Lonnie gets involved in the fight, and Scorpion goes and stabs Lonnie. And there's this moment where everybody's like, holy shit, he just fucking killed Lonnie. But then we zoom around and we see that the fucking tail broke off on Lonnie's chest, and Lonnie's holding the fucking tail. And Lonnie and Spidey team up, and they beat the shit out of Lonnie. And then Scorpion. And then Peter is like pretty much wants to kill Scorpion. He's pretty
Well,
much ready to. Is there another
Scorpion
bit?
drops. Yeah, Scorpion drops all the
Oh, right.
girders on him.
Right, it drops on Lonnie. Lonnie pushes him out of the way, and then Peter starts beating on the fucking Scorpion. Like, and you know what? Like, so I'm not a grim and gritty guy, but this is such a classic Spider-Man story beat.
Yes, 100% a Spider-Man moment.
It's 100% like where he just like something pushes him too far and he's going to lose his shit and somebody has to stop him from killing a guy. That's a very common Spider-Man story beat. And in fact, it happens so many times in the comics that at this point you have to wonder if Peter in fact is some kind of psychopath who has been masking all this time.
Just always waiting for that moment.
But Lonnie was not killed. He wasn't even hurt by the stuff. Nope. I mean,
his clothes aren't even like dirty.
Yes, he's not even dirty. So Lonnie takes off with the 110s because you know what happened earlier? We skipped it. Is that Donovan fucked off? Donovan was like, "Oh, I am out of here. I am not involved in this anymore. I am done." So now Lonnie's the leader of the 110s now.
Yep.
As everybody kind of falls into line behind him, it seems to be the deal here. Nico tells Peter, like, I never knew. She goes and goes with him into the alley, and she's like, I did not know. She punches him. Yeah. He scares her. I liked about that too. He comes down upside down, which is obviously referencing the Mary Jane kiss.
Yeah.
And then she punches him. So I like that a lot. I think that's really fun.
No, that was very good. And then he says, I keep doing this and people keep telling me it's not cool. I like that.
This is where she basically tells him like, oh, I didn't get it, but now I get it. Like, you're actually out here saving people's lives. You're like, I'm worried about you not coming to the movies with me and you're going to school doing this, finishing your homework. Like, it's, I just like, I'm on the fence about this.
Okay.
I don't know that Peter Parker needs anybody telling him what a special boy he is. And I sort of like it better when he gets to feel unappreciated all the time.
Yeah.
And so that's a thing. I'm curious where this goes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is pretty much the end of this storyline here of her being mad at him and stuff like that. And obviously it's going to get picked up in season 2, whatever their relationship is moving forward. But, I don't love Peter getting told he's a special good boy.
That like there's a moment I always think of from the comics where Aunt May's in the hospital and Peter's got to get some kind of special serum from Doc Ock, and they get into a big old fight and he gets all messed up and he goes back to the hospital with the serum and he gives it to the doctor, and then he goes around the corner, changes into Peter, comes walking in and he's all beat up, like he's got like a black eye, he's all scratched up, and he's like, how's my aunt? And the doctor's like, you'd have been here if you cared. And that to me is the Spider-Man story.
100%.
I think that's gone now. I don't think that's.
I don't know. This show is playing with it though.
I think they played with it for a moment, but I think Nico being like, I get it now, that's out.
I guess. I mean, I like when Peter gets reinforcement like from Captain America.
Yes.
Like, I like it when it's an authority figure who sort of sees, hey, good work, kid. Like, I love that Doctor Strange nice save kid. Like, that's like exactly what this character needs. And when his friends, I also don't mind when his friends are like over the moon about Spider-Man. It's just one of these things like, Peter, you're very special, you're doing a really great job, and that just goes against the core of there.
I like it when being Spider-Man
ruins
makes
his
Peter's relationships harder.
Yeah
And then he's always like, is this worth it? I guess so, because I have to keep doing
it. Norman Osborn calls and he's like, you did it. You almost killed the guy. Love to see it. Love to see it. And then he has a meeting with the scientists, all the scientists that are on the
except for Connors. She's not there.
Is she not there?
She's not.
Oh, I thought she was.
At least I'm pretty sure there's a woman sitting next to Paul F. Tompkins, but I don't think it's her.
Oh, I thought she was there. It turns out that this whole thing, this whole internship, although that's next episode. I'm getting confused. They use Peter's blood that they got last episode when he was hospitalized in the Oscorp hospital. And Paul F. Tompkins says that I'm pretty close to being able to recreate the spider that gave him his powers.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be able to create our own Spider-Mans.
And then we see in true comic book science form, they're just injecting Peter's blood into a spider.
It's the whole thing.
It's all they're doing. And all I can think is like, that's a lot of blood to put in that little spider. First off, I think if you just put human blood in a spider, the spider's going to die. Second, that much the spider's going to explode. But okay, whatever.
And then that's the end of the episode. The fight is really big. Yes. We kind of like skipped over most.
It's a good fight too. It's a really well animated. Fight. It's a really good sequence. Yeah.
It's a really good fight. It's good emotionally because it's about Peter is getting confidence, but also that confidence leads him to a darker place at the end of the fight. But it's also great. Although it's really funny to watch him fight Scorpion, because even assuming that Scorpion's armor protects him, there's a point where Peter punches Scorpion in the face, and then Scorpion's like, "Oh, that hurt." And you're like, "Of course it fucking hurt. This guy can lift 10 tons." Like,
yeah.
It's always funny how they have to modulate his powers in these kinds of things.
Sure. Yeah.
But anyway.
I watched this weekend, I watched V and V, the final battle.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite moment between both miniseries is definitively there's a scene in V, the final battle, where they're having a fight. They're like shooting at each other, the V and the Rebellion. And this guy gets shot and he goes, "Oh, ow!" and falls down. And I could not stop laughing at this guy getting shot, just going, "Ow!"
I would hope that if I got shot, I'd have the presence of mind to be like, "Oh, it stings," or something like that, like something a little light. Yeah, ouch! Oh, wow!
Hey, get it out!
So, the next episode opens with Spidey running around stopping a random car theft, and he's late for school. And Nico in school is basically buying him time. She's just like dragging the whole class out. But the reason why she has to do that is because he's showing up with the project that him, Pearl, and that other girl were working on.
Yeah, their diorama.
Clearly,
the main villain of this episode is the guy who's holding the diorama and shaking it like crazy.
Yeah, he's like, "What is this?"
We'll not give it back to Spider-Man. Like, what is this guy's problem?
Yeah, he's playing keep away with the box.
Yes, what a jerk. Spider-Man's like, "Hey, I got your car back for you," and the guy's like, "Can't get your diorama." Like, what a dick.
There's like a bit. I think Harry says maybe it's time to stop doing Spider-Man before school, and it's like, yeah, I think that's actually a really good call, buddy. Like,
yeah,
like not every car robbery has to be solved by Spider-Man. Like, you can go to school and deal with it afterwards. He shows up and he has the box, and he comes in. Pearl calls him Peter.
Yes,
she doesn't call him Petey. She calls him Peter. So that's very exciting.
Yep. Their partner gives the entire presentation.
Yeah, so they get up there with the box, and they open the box, and everything's broken inside of it. And then all of a sudden, the girl who had been just taking selfies the whole time just fucking drops this whole presentation, and she does all the work. Yeah. And it's kind of amazing. And they're like, "Wow!" This is just a good little joke beat. Like, it's just a good little bit. Yes. I appreciated it.
Although if I was the teacher, at the most you get a C. At the most, because when she started going into it, I'd be like, "I'm pretty sure you're just reading off of Wikipedia right now."
It looks like she's reading off Wikipedia.
That's what I thought was happening.
Because she got but I guess all the kids write their notes on their phones, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like,
I guess, but it was weird. It was a weird bit.
Sometimes when Brittany would host burlesque shows, she'd have the script and like people's intro things on her phone. And so she would like look at her phone to do the intro thing. And I was always like, it looks like you're just checking your texts. Like, it does not look like you're like, if you had a piece of paper or a cue card in your hand or a little index card in your hand, it would look different. But when you're just looking at the phone, it's just like, well, is there something interesting happening on there? But anyway,
you got to do it like, I was going to say Lewis Black, but it's not Lewis Black. Comedian Lewis that was on Curb Your Enthusiasm all the time. I can't think of his last name. I'm really having trouble today.
Are you like sundowning? Is that what's happening?
I might be. Richard Lewis. When he would do his stand-up, he always had like the notes sitting on like a stool.
A lot of comedians
do that. Over to the stool, but I always think of him. Because he would be like, what else? Let me look at my notes. Like, it would be part of his bits. would be like, oh, I got to check my notes and see what else I wanted to complain about. I have so much to complain about that I have 40 pages of it here.
Well, you know,
And
it's really funny. I saw a comedian recently, and his thing was, he goes, I have 16 jokes I wrote today. He goes, and do you want to hear like the filthy ones, the offensive ones, the silly ones first? And then the audience votes. And then he goes to his notepad and he's just reading them off his notepad. And it was really funny. It was like some of the jokes were not that good.
yeah,
It did feel like he had written them all. It did feel like they had all been written today.
okay,
But I enjoyed having the notepad as part of the deal.
yeah. Also, that's what happens in the first Joker. He's got his notebook when he's doing his jokes.
There are a lot of comedians. If you go see comics, they very often have their little notes.
Oh, especially in LA, they're trying out their material and stuff.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. Peter goes to Oscorp after school, and Norman's like, "Hey, everybody, we got a big meeting. It's Project Monolith. Time to find out about Project Monolith."
Hey guys, here's an experiment that is so secret. When we walk in the room, there are armed guards watching everyone. And your interns, and it's your last day, I might as well just show you all this stuff.
Well, also, it's like, here's a project so important, we got a bunch of 16-year-olds to create it. That is really funny. Norman Osborn is thinking about child labor. Like, it's really weird.
This will be the future of Oscorp. Let's just get some unpaid interns who are in high school to do this for us.
And he reveals
Elon Musk,
the whole internship. That actually, you know what? That now that you mention it, that is 100% what's happening in the real world. So I guess that this is actually very realistic.
Yeah.
The whole premise is
it's not like Big Balls. What do you think?
The whole premise is that the internship program was all a cover to get all of these kids working on these individual pieces of Project Monolith. They did not know how they were all fitting together, and he is now revealing to them how it all fits together. And the idea here says, we can open the door, a teleportation door, basically the same kind of Eisenstein-Rosenberg bridge that Thor uses to travel from Asgard, and the way that the Chari got here on Earth. Like we can now create this, and we're going to be able to harvest energy and resources and really just like fucking kickstart in the entirety of human evolution. The cosmos is now our backyard, and he's like, we're going to turn this thing on, and Doctor Strange shows up and he's like, don't fucking do it. Don't do it. You have no idea the hellish consequences of opening a portal like this. And Osborn is like, give me a break. And then
Osborn's like, I'll give you a speech from Amanda Waller about how bad superheroes are.
And then, he's like, aren't you the guy that blew up Midtown High School? And he's like, no, I never did that. Like, I never, ever did that. And so now as the audience, we're like, wait, was that a different Strange from a different universe? Is that the premise here?
That was my theory back in the first episode, was he was from a different reality. Yeah.
But while they're talking, Paul F. Tompkins goes and opens the fucking portal. And when the portal opens up, that same alien from the first episode comes through. And it is obviously, we see like the space and like a moon and then the alien. And basically we're probably looking at Clintar is my guess, right? That's like, we're looking at the symbiote homeworld, more or less. And this thing comes through. They evacuate all the kids. Peter changes into Spider-Man in the hallway, I guess, and comes back
Doctor
in.
Strange makes a 21 Jump Street joke, which I appreciate.
Yeah, that's right. They're like, he's like, why are we at high school? I'm on a 21 Jump Street.
Yeah.
And then so they begin fighting the creature inside the lab. They lock the lab down. Norman Osborn is like, Jesus fucking Christ. He is like freaked out. And they had this big fight, and it's pretty good. There's like a lot of fun stuff happening in this big fight. And they have to get the portal open again. And so Doctor Strange is going to try to keep the monster occupied while Peter repairs the machine.
Well, first he puts the monster in Dormammu's realm, right?
Well, he opens up the dark dimension, and then Peter tackles the monster into the dark dimension and flies
into the dark dimension. And Doctor Strange is like, you idiot, and he has to pull them both out.
Yeah.
But I couldn't help but wonder, like, open up another portal of dark dimension and say, don't go in there, dummy. just put the alien in there. That's all we got to do.
The thing about magic is that it's always so ambiguous, and like is the argument that like we didn't see it, but he pulled a pine needle out of his pouch that he needs to do that. He doesn't have any more pine needles. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's, I think, the argument that he couldn't just rapid fire do it. Sure. That's my guess, or Like in a video game, every spells only has a certain number of uses a day.
Sure.
Spells have to recharge.
He's like, oh, I used 50 mana, and now I've only got 20 left. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to beat this guy up a little bit to get my mana back. If you see a bottle of blue shit laying around, let me know, because blue is the universal color of magic power. That's I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And if there's just a turkey, if you punch something and a turkey comes out of it, eat that shit.
Meanwhile, upstairs, all this havoc busts through into the lab, and that spider that Paul F. Tompkins was working on gets out.
Yeah.
And this is where we begin to realize that something totally nuts is about to happen. And the nuts thing is the symbiote grabs the Eye of Agamotto, which still has the time stone in it. And it opens up a fucking portal, a time portal. And by the way, we had seen Strange use the eye previously. He makes the symbiote go backwards, and Peter's like, holy shit, you could do that. It was like, that was very fun. And they fall through this hole, and guess what? It is that day at Midtown High. So Peter's whole fucking origin is a grandfather paradox.
Yeah.
Because the spider comes down and bites Peter, and that's where it comes from. You don't like this, huh?
Nope.
I love it.
No, I don't like grandfather paradoxes in general, and I think it's very goofy.
I agree that it's goofy. That's why I kind of love it, because it's like a big goofy swing, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's really fun. Like, I think when you're playing with a thing like this, where you get to take the iconography and the basic beats that everybody knows, and you're mostly staying largely true to them, and especially the emotional core of it, when they do weird stuff like this on the edges, I'm like all about it. Like, I'm all about it. I think it's like really fun. I love, because I was really worried that spider came from another universe, like in Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Like, that was a big concern of mine. It's like, oh, everything's going to be fucking multiversal. I like that it's just this weird fucking grandfather paradox that cannot work, does not make any sense. It is impossible. But that's the deal.
They kind of discuss this later, right? Peter and Strange discuss it later, and Peter's like, it was the spider that bit me, came from our fight. How's that work? And Dr. Strange is like, I don't know, shit's weird. So, like, I guess that's okay, but like, I'm just not a big fan of that. Like, oh, how'd you get your powers? Well, I had my powers and then went back in time and gave myself my powers. That just does not.
I love that. It's like one of my favorite storytelling devices. I like a good grandfather paradox. I think they're really fun. And I like the idea of a closed loop like that just doesn't make any sense and can't work. And however, we just watched it work. I think that's the thing that I like about a grandfather paradox, is that you have to play it through the whole way.
Yeah.
There's a really good Futurama with that.
Oh, there's a great Futurama episode with that. But Futurama is a comedy show. And in it, they discuss how this doesn't work and none of it makes sense, and this is impossible. So,
well, in this show, they talk about how it doesn't work and it's impossible.
Yeah.
So
I'm not a huge guy on this kind of stuff.
I like, the thing for me is that we've talked about this with other stuff, which is that my take on magic is that it should not make sense, and that I think that as bizarre and weird as possible is better. I don't like when magic has a rule system. I don't like when you can say that. And so when magic breaks the very laws of time and space, I'm all about it.
No, yeah, that's fine. But this isn't magic. This is science.
No, it's magic.
No. The spider is science.
No, I know, but magic creates the portal. And this was already a thing that already happened. That's the problem with the grandfather paradox.
Yes, but it cannot happen until Peter has his powers, so that they can give the powers to the spider. That's science.
No, I know, but the way that the time travel works is that it's because it's magic. It's breaking all logic and meaning. This is not a time machine. It's the time stone. So it's magic, and so that's I think what makes it fun is like it breaks all known understanding of the universe. And I love when all known understanding of the universe is broken. That's like one of my favorite things. Like, I think if the show knows that it's doing that, like if it doesn't like think that it's just like, oh, isn't this cool? But if the characters say, wait, how does that work? That can't work. And then they go, I know, it's just crazy. Like, I love that. Like, I love mysterious.
I mean, the greatest ending to any movie of all time is, Hudson Hawk, where Danny Aiello crashes off the side of a cliff in a limousine that explodes and then comes walking out of it. And Bruce Willis is like, but the car went over the cliff. you should have died. And he's like, airbags in the back seats. Can you believe it? And he goes, and then what's her face goes, but we saw it explode into a fiery pit of hell. And he goes, sprinkler system in the car. Can you believe it? And Bruce Willis just goes, yeah, that's probably what happened. Which is great. Which is my favorite. I love that ending.
I love that. Meanwhile, while Doctor Strange is blowing up Midtown High in the past, the symbiotes have all gathered at the portal and they are like fucking ready to come through. And at the last minute, Strange, he's like got like the portal like sealed with his magic, and then they're able to get the monster back through, and he's like, Peter, turn off the portal, and they turn it off, and it closes, and a little piece of symbiote gets cut off and lands in the floor.
There's good gag there too,
which is what,
where because Peter's working on the battery to get the portal working again so they can throw the monster back, and it goes on, and Peter goes, the batteries work, and then it goes out, and he kicks it, and it comes back on, and he goes, the battery's working.
That's really good. It's really good.
That made me laugh really hard.
I also like that the writing here is that Peter takes the technical side. Yes. And I think that it's very easy to forget that Peter's a genius. And Spider-Man's a punch him up, right?
Yeah.
But when Peter gets to do something technical, I love it. Like I don't think it doesn't make sense to me that he knows how to fix this machine. Like give me a break. Is it just the battery that's broken?
Yeah, the battery. It's just the battery. The power.
Oh, okay. Well, then there we go. Yeah. Okay. I love that stuff. That's my bread and butter when it comes to Spider-Man, is when Peter gets to be a genius. And I like also his banter and his relationship with Strange here.
Yes,
I like it a lot, and I like when Strange repeats the "nice save, kid." I thought that was really, really nice. And we have a scene. I'm just going to jump because there's like a whole bunch of fucking. There's other stuff to talk about before this happens, but while we're talking about Strange and Peter, the last scene of the show is Spider-Man meeting up with Strange on a construction site, and he almost tells him his name, which I thought was really funny.
Which was very good. Yeah.
But this is what I saying earlier. Like, I like when Peter gets reinforcement from an authority figure. That's what happens here.
Yes.
And because Peter's like, well, can you see the future? Can you tell me you have control of time? Can you tell me what's coming? And so it doesn't work that way, but I can tell you, I know what's coming. Whatever's coming, I know that you can handle it. And I love that. That's like great. That's like my shit, man. Like 100%. Give that to me.
What I love is that Doctor Strange says that and he goes through a portal, and then the camera pans over and you can see the Watcher in the sky.
Yes.
And the Watcher's like, oh, this is what a good cartoon is like. Oh. What if I was in a good animated series?
We cut to that's at the very last shot of the show. So and then it's Peter does his Spider-Man.
Peter,
but I'm just we're going to jump back now to what happens. So Norman Osborn finds the symbiote piece, and we don't know what happens. That's left up in the air.
He just goes,
That's season 2 right there for you. And then actually what happens next is a ton of season 2 setup.
Oh yeah, the second half of this episode is just setting up the next season.
We see Nico and Harry and Peter hanging out at Peter's house. And they're like, boy, we can't trust Norman anymore. And they're like, hey, sorry, Harry, we don't mean to talk shit about your dad. And Harry's like, no, I hate my fucking dad. Like, he's the worst. And so Nico has this, like,
Harry's looking at memes of his dad. On like Twitter. Yeah.
It's really great. And Nico's like, Harry, it would be cool if you could start a company that would take these young geniuses and get to do great things for the world with it. And Peter's like, he can't do that. And Harry's like, well, actually, I can. I'm very rich. Like, I'm a very rich person. And so they create the Worldwide Engineering Brigade, WEB, which is the name of the shit in Marvel Avengers land. When you go to the Peter Parker, the Spider-Man lab, it's a WEB lab. And that might come from the comics or a cartoon that I'm not familiar with. But they have a whole list.
Is that the name of his company?
No, it's Parker Industries.
Okay.
They have a whole list of potential people to recruit, including many of the characters that we already know on that list. Ned Leeds. Yeah. Yep. So we may get Ned Leeds in the show after all.
Who knows?
And we see a couple of other things. So that's like the next phase, obviously, is that he's gonna leave Norman behind and work with Harry and the Web and maybe create something good. We see that Amadeus Cho has decided to remain at Oscorp. That he's like, I'm the best one. Why would I go off and do something else with these web idiots? Like, this is the best
he's the
place
chief
to
of
be.
engineering now.
Yeah, he's chief of engineering. And then we see Jean Foucault putting on a domino mask, and she's Daredevil's sidekick, it turns out.
Jean.
And Jean.
They keep calling her Jean in the show.
I know, but Jean Foucault. I have to say the whole thing French. Jean Foucault.
But is it Jean for a woman?
Yeah, Jean.
Okay.
Jean. Foucault. So we see that she is Finesse, which is the name of the character in the comics that she is, where she is Taskmaster's daughter, and she is sidekick of Daredevil.
Yeah. Yeah, that was weird. I guess not. I mean, we saw her sneaking around before in the.
We saw her, and then we're like, "What does this have to do with anything?" But it makes sense. It was in the Daredevil episode. Like, of course, she was sneaking around. She was helping Daredevil, and Daredevil makes a joke.
Yep.
He makes a joke in this scene, and he has a teenage sidekick, and it is like the creators of this show were like, "Fuck you, Netflix Daredevil!" Like, fuck you. Isn't this delightful? Isn't this nice? Lonnie gets invited to join Web. And he turns it down because he already has a job. He's the leader of the 110s.
Yes.
And
his fingertips are turning white.
Which, by the way, I was not sure if he had schmutz on them or not at first.
Yeah, I was, because he didn't seem concerned about it.
Yeah, and he's holding something, and I was like, "Oh, is this schmutz from the thing he's holding?" And no, of course he's becoming albino. That's the deal. Yeah. And then we see Nico in her room doing satanic magic. It's funny. We have hit a point in the culture where I am imagining somebody's parents losing their shit over this.
Oh, for sure.
Like, because that was like the 80s. That's what it was like. And then nobody was stupid for 30 years. And now people are stupid again.
There is a book called Saturday Morning Mind Control that our Uncle Billy got me when I was like 12.
Yeah.
And he thought it was a book that was like a fiction book about like characters from cartoons coming into the real world. So he bought it for me. But it was a book about how like every Saturday morning cartoon was satanic and brainwashing your children. I love this book. As like I read it at like 12, 13 years old. I was like, this is amazing. Like, God, I wish the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were working for Baphomet. That would be amazing. If you can get your hands on a copy of that book, I highly recommend it. I loved it. I read it like 4 times.
So she's doing magic, and the magic that she's doing is to summon her mother through her necklace.
Yeah.
And she says, "Mom, I missed you." Yep. And so it's not really clear what's going on here with this.
Nope.
Then in prison, we see Dr. Otto Octavius, and he is an artist.
He's a real Basquiat, as it turns out.
He is sketching out his arms that he's going to wear, and he poses it. He has to use like 1,000 pieces of paper, though, and he's like excellent at making the images all work together. It's funny that they do this bit because he already has the arms, so it's like,
yeah, we already saw them.
We already saw the arms, but it's a nice image of him standing in front of the paper with the arms behind him, and it's like, oh, okay. In case you're really stupid, this is Dr. Octopus. And then we have the big swing moment of the episode that I'm not sure about, which is that May goes to prison and she visits somebody in prison. And it turns out the person that she's visiting is Richard Parker, Peter's dad. At first I thought, is this going to be Ben? Like, did they lie to Peter and say Ben died of cancer and then he's actually in prison? Yeah. But no, it's Richard Parker, Peter's dad. And I'm on the record as saying I hate when Peter's parents are alive.
I appreciate that the scene is played out in a way to suggest that May doesn't know who Richard Parker is, because he slides the photo of him with a young Peter.
Why is she there then?
No, what I'm saying is that's clearly for us, the audience, but it's just funny that he's like, by the way, here's a picture of me with my son when he was younger. And it's like, that's a weird thing to do.
Yeah.
No, she clearly knows who he is. But
no, you have to do that because there's no way to, without her saying Richard Parker, father of Peter Parker, there's no way to tell the audience who this guy is. There's just no way at all.
And, I mean, on his shirt it says Parker, R.
But even that, like, I think,
but they don't focus on it or anything.
And like a general audience does not know if this is Peter's cousin. You know what I mean? Like whatever. Like, you need to make it clear it's his dad.
Yeah.
I don't like when Peter's dad and mom are in it. I don't
agree.
like the retcon that they're spies. That's an
I
old retcon. Hate it.
despise it. I despise the idea that they were agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I do not like that at all.
I kind of like that he's in prison, though.
Depending.
And he doesn't seem like a good guy. There's something about him that seems sleazy as shit.
Yeah.
So I actually maybe don't mind if it turns out that Peter's dad is a bad guy.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'm maybe not against that. Like if we're going to play with the Peter's dad as a live thing.
The one thing, and this is unfair to the show, but they not that long ago they did a storyline in the comics, Shazam, the original Captain Marvel, Shazam, where his dad shows up, and his dad is like an evil con man guy who figured out that his son has magic powers, and he's like, maybe I can get those magic powers for my kid and be really cool. And that's what I'm worried that they're doing here, because he's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna get my son's powers.
What if it turns out that Richard Parker's in prison for killing his wife, but his wife was actually killed by an evil Spider-Man 2099?
Yeah.
And it's just that shitty new Flash origin.
Yep. I also thought that too. It was like, oh man, if that's going to be the story.
What'd you think of these 2 episodes?
Really like the first one. Second one, not as much, because of the grandfather paradox and his dad showing up at the end. I was not big fans of those things. But story wise, I thought it was very good. I enjoyed it. It was nice that Spider-Man's finally got his costume. You know, it's interesting because we've discussed this before. The annoyance of watching a quote unquote origin story where it takes the character the entire storyline to get to their costume.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't bother me in this
because he's wearing a costume the rest of the time. That's the thing. Yeah, he's wearing a costume the whole time. It's just about him finding his identity as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Is sort of the thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't mind that. I think that worked pretty well. The fight in the first episode was really good.
Yeah, really, really good fight.
Fight in the second episode is good too, in that room with the symbiote.
The action on this show is excellent.
Yeah. The action is very well done in the show.
And they include a lot of Spider-Man quips, which, has been in short supply in the live action adaptations across the board. And they fit them in there. They make it happen. Yeah. And I wish that the MCU would look at this and go, oh yeah, he should be stopping in the middle of a fight to say something silly right now.
Well, it's interesting because I've recently rewatched the Spider-Man movies, the MCU Spider-Man movies. And it's always something that nags at me is Spider-Man in these movies and in all the Marvel stuff is weirdly naive.
Yeah.
And it annoys me a little bit, where it's like, come on, like, he's smart. He's like a super genius kid. Like in Infinity War, when he's hanging out to the side of the spaceship and he's like, Mr. Stark, it's getting hard to breathe. It's like, the dude understands. I understand it. He understands it. There's no way Peter Parker does not understand that the higher up, the thinner the oxygen gets, if I understand it, right? Like,
well, I think he's trying to convince Stark to unlock the suit, right? That's the deal.
I don't think, no, because he doesn't know about the suit. Because when Stark unlocks the suit and it gets on him, he's like, oh, Mr. Stark, it smells like a new car in here. Like, he's like shocked by it and stuff. Like, which also, Mr. Stark, it smells like a new car in here. I don't like that either. But like, they play him very naive in those. In this, he's not played as naive.
They play him more naive in those. Although I think that actually it smells like a new car in here is a pretty good Spider-Man joke.
It is.
If he's not being serious about it, like if he's doing a little bit, that's a pretty good line. I think that on set they made Tom Holland deliver it with too much earnestness.
Yeah.
But yeah, the MCU Spider-Man is more, he is earnest. He is a little goofy. But I think that one of the things that I liked about the ending of the last one is that it does indicate that we're done with that version of Peter Parker.
Sure. Hopefully.
I mean, we'll see what happens. Right.
Yeah.
But like, that movie really does have Peter Parker truly growing up, like hitting the next stage of his life in a very big way. Yeah. And including by the decisions that he makes, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like to make his friends not remember him, to spare them. That's a very good Spider-Man decision too, by the way. That's a good classic Spider-Man decision, which is to make himself miserable for everybody else. And so I'm hoping that in the fourth one, which is apparently in trouble because they've moved it back a week.
Pushed it back a week. That's very bad news.
Spider-Man in chaos.
Rob Liefeld calling for Kevin Feige to step down.
Is he?
Yeah. He did a whole podcast episode about it.
Yeah, I think Feige maybe has lost his fastball. It's hard to say.
That's exactly what Liefeld says.
Yeah.
Said he's lost his fastball. He's got to bring in a new pitcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be. It could be. It's not unheard of. It's been a long time,
Yeah.
and nobody is top of their game forever. Eventually, you're not top of your game anymore.
Yeah.
So
that, by the way, that sound was Feige, who was just outside Devin's window, driving away angry after hearing that.
That was just the sound of people fucking racing around my neighborhood, man. And at night, when it's really late at night, I'm not close to the 5 freeway, but like when it's really quiet out, you can hear people racing on the 5 freeway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear people racing up and down my street up here, Glendale Boulevard. At night, it's like a very long, straight street, and it's wide. It's a very wide boulevard, and people race it at night. Speaking of Glendale Boulevard, what's his name? Walton Goggins was across the street from my house today.
Hey, look at that.
He was posting Instagram photos from the Proof Bakery around the corner from where I am, and in front of the fucking sausage place that I go get pretzels at, that I walk across the street to.
I wonder if he lives by there.
There's no way that you come to this Proof Bakery if you don't live around here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's just no way. I can't imagine why you would. It's fine. Like, it's not like an amazing bakery.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say. I don't really know where he lives. And it was very sweet. It was him saying goodbye to his wife and son because he's going off to work. And he was talking about like what a heartbreak it is. And
I thought you meant because he's leaving them.
Well, I was like, the reason why I went through all the pictures, I don't follow him. It just got fed into my Instagram feed. The reason why I went through all the pictures is because the caption was like read in a way that sounded like his wife just died. And I was like, wait, what? And so I was like, oh no, Walton Goggins is terrible. But I had a friend that saw him at Rock and Roll Ralph's in West Hollywood. So I don't know where he lives. Right. You would not, if you live around here, you would not go to Rock and Roll Ralph's in West Hollywood.
I mean, I've seen videos he's put up. I don't follow him either, but he's popped up in my Instagram. And I've seen videos put up where like, he's like, here I am in my yard with my horses. So I don't think that's near you if there's horses, right?
No, we have horses around here.
Do you? Okay.
I live quite close to the Glendale equestrian area.
Yeah.
And there's like a whole horse thing there. Sometimes I like to go over there and look at the horses. And you can step in horse shit and everything over there.
That's an exciting day.
It's not impossible that he would live up in like he wouldn't be like my neighbor.
Yeah.
But he would be like in some of the fancier hill area around here. That's my guess, but I don't, maybe not. Maybe that's just where maybe his kid's working at a place over here on Sundays and they came over to have their goodbye because the kid had his lunch or something like that. I have no idea. Anyway, I'm now stalking Walton Goggins, it turns out. But there's something about looking at a famous person's Instagram and they are standing in a spot that is 600 feet away from where you are right now.
Sure.
And you're like, this is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Even in LA, it's crazy because my neighborhood is not like a glitzy neighborhood.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, even like in my time of living in LA and every now and then you just be like, oh, there's somebody.
Yeah,
it's always weird. It's always, kind of strange when you're like, oh, there's Ben Affleck getting gas.
Yeah.
That's a strange thing to see.
Our sister's really into celebrities. And it's like one of her main hobbies is celebrities. And when she was in LA last, I was like, this is a long time ago. I was like, just go stand in the lobby of the ArcLight. Just stand there all day. And you will see so many fucking celebrities. Like, it's not even funny how many celebrities are going to walk through the fucking ArcLight.
Yeah.
Because they all go to the movies there. That was always the deal. Now the ArcLight's been closed for years. Nobody goes there anymore because it's closed. But
yeah, I mean, it used to be a thing. You'd go there, you're almost guaranteed to see a celebrity.
Straight up guaranteed.
Yeah.
Hang out in that lobby long enough. Yeah.
When I went there. Shaun of the Dead was out because I went to see Shaun of the Dead with my friend Lisa, and we went to like a 10 a.m. showing. And walking out of the theater and being like, that's such a good movie. And I'd already seen it. And I just wanted her to see it. And it's like, it's such a good movie. And this person behind us goes, yeah, isn't it great? And we turn around, it's Tarantino. And he's like, yeah, I love this movie. It's my favorite movie of the year. We're like, oh shit, Tarantino. That's weird. And then another time I forgot what I was seeing. Something else.
It's so funny because Tarantino must have already seen it, but I guess not.
Oh, he brought people to see it. Same as I did.
Okay. Is that what it was?
Yeah. Yeah. And then and it was only us in the theater. It was like me, my friend Lisa, and then Tarantino, and like 3 or 4 people that
Did
he
you
brought
not
with him.
hear Tarantino's very distinctive laugh the whole movie?
Did not notice it. Did not realize it. No,
Wow.
no. And then another time I was there again with my friend John, and Edgar Wright was walking through the lobby. He stopped. He looked at me, started walking towards me, and I was like, "What?" And then he stopped halfway and got nervous and started to turn around, and I realized he thought I was you. And I said, I'm not Devin." And he turned back. He's like, I thought you were Devin Faraci. I was like, no, I'm his brother. It's like, yeah.
I have had a couple of Tarantino in the theater experiences. One was recently when he came to see Horizon Part 2. The best two that I had, because when you go to the new Bev, before he bought it, he was always there. Like you could always run into him.
Yeah.
And I actually ran into him doing coke in the bathroom one time. Although I should not say that he's doing coke because I can't prove that he was doing coke. But he was in the shitter with the door closed, and it sounded like somebody was snorting coke. And he came out pretty
Allegedly,
or it seemed to me. But the two better ones that I have are one, Draft House. We did a screening of Jackie Brown at LAX, and he came.
Oh, that's cool.
And he sat in front of me, and he laughed at his whole movie the entire way through.
Good for him.
Was fucking tickled by, and I thought it was great. He was the loudest laugher in the whole audience. He was so fucking tickled, but he only laughed at the appropriate parts. He wasn't like laughing at like, oh, remember that day, how dumb it was. He's laughing at the jokes and the funny bits. But the other greatest one was that the Cine Family did a screening of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy of Friday the 13th, which is 4, 5, and 6. And which I think is a great idea. Nobody does that. Like, it's such a great idea. And there's at the old Cine Family, there were couches up front that you could, like, if you were VIP, you got to sit in. And I had a couch reserved, and I was sharing my couch with Quentin Tarantino. He had his name on it, but he didn't come in. He wasn't there for 4. And I'm like, I guess Tarantino didn't make it. He showed up for 5, watched all of 5, and then left. He came just to watch Friday the 13th Part 5, the movie that most people hate the most.
Respect, because I love 5.
I'm a big fan of 5. I used to hate it, but I've come around in a big way. I love 5 now.
I love it. What a swing. That is one of those. Again, I will always defend a swing, and that is a swing.
Not just that. I think the thing about 5 that I like a lot, which is that people complain about, slasher movies, they're evil, they're mean. Most of them aren't. They're stupid. 5 is mean.
Yes.
5 has a mean streak in it. Like, it is like really unpleasant. And the way that, like, Roy, who's the Jason of this one, the way he kills people is unpleasant. It's really personal. The way that his little fat son is portrayed is really mean. Yeah. Like, it's just really, and those 2 inbred rednecks, it's really fucking nasty.
I mean, the bit when he kills the guy by putting the
road flare in his mouth.
No, the belt around his eyes.
Oh, yeah, like, that's part 2.
And just crushes him. No, it's in 5.
Oh, you're right. Part 2, he does that with Jason does that with the Doomsayer guy in part 2, which is, in both of these cases, there's no way that he could have done this. I think maybe part 5, they actually show him bring the belt around, do they? In part 2, they don't. Yes. He just suddenly has the belt. And it's like, how did he get around the fucking tree? Anyway, the part 5 also is classic because there is a woman with enormous breasts who has a nude scene, and her real life name is Voorhees. So
that is the Wolfie's Just Fine song is all about her.
Is it?
Yeah, about. Oh God, I can't remember the name of the song now, but it's about watching Friday the 13th Part 5, and it's his true story, Jean LaJoie's true story of it's the first horror movie he ever saw, and he's like 8 or 9 when he sees it, and he's like, I'm sitting there seeing a naked woman for the first time in my life, and then she's murdered in front of me, like how it fucked him up for life. Yeah, it's a great song. It's a great song. A New Beginning. Anyway, that's the name of the song. Is A New Beginning. My favorite, by the way, celebrity movie theater bit is again, John. Me and my buddy John went to go see Get Smart. Not a good movie. On the way into the theater, Robin Williams was coming out.
Oh yeah.
And in most cases, whenever I saw a celebrity somewhere, I would leave him alone. But it was Robin Williams. I had to go up and be like, "Yeah, I fucking love you." And I ran up to him and I was like, "Excuse me." And he turned around and got nervous. And I was like, "No, I just want to say, Popeye's like one of my favorite movies. I love your work, blah, blah, blah." And then he laughed. He's like, "I thought you were going to say you're my son." And then He shook my hand and he walked away, and that was great. And then we get in the theater and we're sitting there, and this guy sits down next to me, and he's got his hat low, and he's like kind of like not doing anything. And I look and I realize it's Bruce Willis. And the entire movie gets short. All I'm paying attention to is when does Bruce Willis laugh at anything in this movie? That's all I could do. And the most the movie could get out of him was him going, and that was it. But that made the movie 100% more fun to watch.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens when you go to LA, when you live there long enough, I guess.
So we are going to not be back next week. We're going to take a week off. And then we're going to be back with Daredevil Born Again. That might be late. And the reason it might be late is because Derek is coming to Los Angeles.
Yes.
And he's coming the day that Daredevil plays. And then
I'm coming the day after.
Oh, day after? And then
because it's on the 4th.
You're coming in the 5th.
It airs, and I'm coming on the 5th. Yeah.
And we have a lot to do while Derek is here, which is going to end up here on the podcast. It's going to end up being we're going to have a special for you guys. But because of that, we might have this next episode a little bit late, just depending on travel and stuff like that. And like, maybe we can get it recorded while Derek is here. We're in person, or maybe we're going to have to wait till Derek gets back to Michigan to record it, because we're going to be doing other recording stuff on this trip. So this is our first tease of our special. We're taking a special trip that is going to be for the podcast audience. And I don't know yet if we're going to give it to everybody or just the subscribers. I'm not really sure yet.
I don't know.
Anyway, just to be sure that you can get it if it just goes to subscribers, join us at the Patreon, www.patreon.com/CinemaSangha, SANGHA. And go join up there. I recommend it at the $5 or above level so that you can get Watchmen, our monthly superhero deep dive podcast. Captain America, Brave New World is the current episode. Got 3 hours talking about this one. And then we got Thunderbolts in 2 months. And we're going to have we're going to decide what our next episode is soon. Anyway, that's the deal. So we will see you guys again in a couple of weeks when we do Daredevil Born Again episodes 1 and 2. You excited for that, buddy?
No.
Well,
no.
All right. Until next time, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be well, but most of all, may you remain a true believer.